give more food for thought. It depends. And today we do have a special guest, our friend Dana Sisi. Good evening, Dan. How are you, my friend?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you, talking about these important topics that are very relatable to our everyday life. And I'm excited to see Sylvia, Charles, and you, Stephen, as well. I know that we are separated by 8 hours, thereabouts, but glad to be here with you today.
But I saw you got the memo, the green shirt.
Yes,
Yeah.
in honor of Ireland today.
Yeah, I saw you got the memo. Yeah, the good. 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 So, good evening, Miss Gibbons. How are you, my dear?
This. I'm very well. Good evening. Good evening, Charles. Nice to see you. Hi, Dan. It's a pleasure. Nice to see you, Stephen. I hope everyone that will be listening to us now, today, and maybe at a further date, are all well and happy. And once again, we are here to talk about something that it's very important and is something that a lot of people want to know more about, mediumship. And I think one thing as well that is important to see is the difference between mediumship and being a psychic, which a lot of people confuse. So looking forward to this talk today, to the
Great. Great.
conversation.
Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Stephen. Bonsoir à tous. Hello, good evening. Very happy to be again, indeed, here with you. Happy to welcome our dear friend and brother Dan, and to talk about this very interesting topic.
Great. Great. So, now I'm curious, since Sylvia kick off the conversation to explain us what's the difference between a medium and a psychic, I think we have our first question. My dear Sylvia, would you mind to kick off the discussion, please?
Hi. Well, I think really what everyone has really is mediumship. Most, if we go to question 159 of the medium's book, when Kardec asks the spirit, everyone has. And the answer, actually, I have my book here, so rather than going on my own words, he says, everyone who is in any degree influenced by spirit is by that very fact a medium. This faculty is inherent to man and is therefore no exclusive privilege. In fact, there are few persons in whom some rudiments of medianimity are not found. We therefore assume that everyone, nearly everyone, is a medium. So, what we really have is mediumship, but sometimes you see it referred to as being a psychic. And of course, every person every human being exists is a medium. So we all have some kind of psychic faculties. Of course, normally we say medium for a person who has a more ostensive mediumship. They, show signs of quite a lot of different things. Some can hear, some can speak, some can write. I mean, it's almost infinite, the number of different mediumships that there are. So the psychic ability we all have, all of us. And in Spiritism, we would refer to it as mediumship rather than being a psychic. Because, say, for instance, being as animals, for instance, they have a very, quite a high degree, depending on the animal, of course, but dogs and everything, they have quite a high level of psychic abilities, but they are not mediums. They cannot, because the medium is the one who can transmit messages from the spiritual world into the incarnate world. And animals cannot do that. They cannot transmit the messages, but they have psychic abilities. I always remember when I was a child, my grandfather had this dog. We all loved him, you know. I still remember this little dog. He was lovely, really loving animal, and he did this work, and sometimes he had to work at night. And he said often, before any danger came, the dog would already be alert. So the dog immediately, as the dog got alert to something, my grandfather knew that something was about to happen. So he would already pay attention. And he said that many, many times, that his dog would always tell him almost, what was going on. So I think this, I hope it was clear that really is mediumship that human beings have. And some people, and within this mediumship, who have psychic abilities, but it's very common, especially in certain areas, that people say, oh, he was a psychic. In reality, the person is a medium. And I think sort of remembering the thing we talked about before, Pierre de Tourland, I forgot, that French Jesuit priest. Pierre, he said that we are not human beings living spiritual life, but spiritual beings living into a material life. I think it's very clear that. So hope, I don't want to go on and on. I'll get his name here because I have it written down. But that's it. I hope I answered the question you asked me. Yeah.
Yes, you did. And you, then, Charles, do you want to compliment something?
No, I like that we are tackling this particular topic because it's one that often comes out of confusion, right? And I think that one wonderful thing that Spiritism has brought us is the study of mediumship. Because for more than 160 years now, that's exactly what Spiritism has been doing, which is studying the interaction between worlds. So I find it hard to find a source that has spent more time researching and trying to understand mediumship than Spiritism. I think it's Spiritism's greatest legacy for humanity in many different ways. And I love that we can put simply, like Sylvia brought to us, psychics really tap into the energies of the psyche, that is to say, of the individual, right? So if you are tapping into your own abilities and your own perceptions, which still remain largely undiscovered, then you can claim yourself to be a psychic. A medium, however, as Kardec defines a medium, who is able to receive the influences of the spirit and feel that at different degrees, and we all are mediums. So we're all mediums in that sense. Are those who are definitely dealing with the impressions from the spiritual world. So there's a third party here in this dance, so to speak. When we're talking about mediumship, you have to have at least a second party there, right? Or a third party, depending on how you want to think about this. And so I think that's the main difference. I think that all mediums can also be psychic, but not all psychics can be mediums, right? So I think it really depends on how we look at that. And I think that confusion is continue to exist because as a humanity and as a society, we have not always really delved into the idea of what is a medium and mediumship. And I think that's one of the great things that we can do is to think about this because we live in a spiritual world, as Sylvia was saying. So I love that's coming up, and hopefully we can help ourselves in understanding in more fine detail what this process of interaction with the spiritual world is like, so that we can take that into our lives and understand how we are influenced and how we are influence each other.
Good.
Yes, I actually actually the name that I was saying is Teilhard de Chardin.
Teilhard de
Yes,
Chardin. Yeah.
Charles?
Mhm.
Gerard de Chardin,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
He was one who said we are spiritual being living a material life. I love
Just
that, actually.
yeah, just to reinforce what you just said, Dan. Our friend Lawrence Savio, he said, every medium is psyche, but not every psyche is a medium.
I agree 100% with that. So, and a great hello to Lawrence too, who we had a chance to see every once in a while. Lawrence, I miss you in person. I hope to bump into you in the near future.
Good. Okay. And Charles, now I see you want to
Everyone
speak.
is a medium.
Yes, it's indeed an interesting point. Huh? So um, we are spirits living in a material world. So this is already the revolution of the paradigm, isn't it? Because the mainstream science, medicine, psychology, psychiatry, or whatever, is not spiritualist yet. For them, the mediumship is some result of some strange working of the brain. The conscience is product of the brain. So this is how to say narrowing the point of view and thinking that nature is only what we know it to be and nothing more. And interestingly, the fact to demystify mediumship, to study it rationally by observation, by trying to understand how it works, which is exactly what Allan Kardec did, and wrote it down in the Medium's book. Hello, Elsa, welcome. That is exactly what is missing, because Moses prohibited the mediumship, isn't it? He told, don't call the spirits, it's something forbidden, etc. What did he forbid? Not calling the spirits, but the abuse of the mediumship. The people using mediumship, this mystification because it's not known, in order to influence credulous people and to get money from them. So that is exactly what Kardec, by analyzing, studying mediumship rationally, you end up with all these things. I mean, you should end up. It takes some time, because what Moses was finger pointing as an abuse of mediumship is still existing today. You have still a lot of people which are taking advantage of the ignorance of other people concerning what is really mediumship and for what you can do and what you cannot do with it. They take advantage of this ignorance for majority of the people in order, again, to exploit them financially. And of course, spiritist is somehow jeopardizing their business, but it's a question of honesty, a question of transparency, and it's indeed very, very opportune to say everyone is medium. Everyone, we are spirits in a material world. So there are spirits in the spiritual world everywhere around us. They influence us much more than what we think. They are constantly influencing us. So, willing or not willing, we suffer this influence, and it's just a question to say, deploy the antennas, to listen a little bit better, to analyzing a little bit better. Even if it's a question, the communication with our spiritual mentor, or soft forms of mediumship like the voice of conscience or intuition or inspiration, that most of the time we think, okay, it's a faculty of our brain, of our own spirit. Most of the time it is not. It is just an influence from some spirit who wants to help us, or in the other side, because it works both sides, an influence from a spirit who wants to deviate us from our right track. So this is clearly the message, the direct result of the rational study of mediumship.
Good. Yes. And since we are talking medium, Um, and we specify the difference between mediumship, and psychic. What's the I can ask this to Dan. Dan, what's the role of a medium in spiritism?
That's a great question. I think one other fine comment that we might want to make in terms of adjusting our understanding of mediumship is Kardec tells us in the Spirit's Book, Part 2, Chapter 14, that everybody who feels the presence or the influence of a spirit, is a medium. But in Spiritism, we have also come to use the word of being an extensive medium as one who is very aware that and can communicate that. So even though we have different degrees of mediumship and we can feel that intuition, perceptions, and so forth, some of us have it to a higher degree, and we can actually relay messages from the spirit world. So we can be a medium according to Kardec's definition, even if we cannot relay the message, right? So in Spiritism, because it's just more convenient, we don't have time to kind of add one word like extensive mediumship all the time. We tend to talk about mediums as those who are extensive mediums, right? So the role of medium is a very important one from our own perception. I think there's two different ways that we can look at it. One of them is in Spiritism, we use mediumship to connect with the spiritual world, to obtain messages that are of wisdom, of great value. And that's one use of mediumship I think that everybody is aware of, and they always want to have these kind of messages, whether they are spoken messages, whether they are written messages. So one aspect of mediumship within the Spiritist perspective is that of garnering wisdom from the spiritual world that can help us in our everyday life. Now, there's another aspect that we also do in Spiritism with mediumship that is really important too, and that is not as common in the world. We also use mediumship as a tool for healing, in that we use mediumship to help people either heal emotionally or physically from different challenges, and more importantly, to communicate with the spirit world, to help folks in the spirit world who are discarnate, who don't have a physical body, to also make sense of their true nature and where they are. And I think that's one thing that sets Spiritism apart, that we don't find quite often, is this assistive, this helping side of mediumship, that's not just to gather great vibrations and love from above, but to help those who are less fortunate spiritually. So I think that in Spiritism, within the Spiritist perspective, we will talk about those two different things. Now, the last thing I would say is, regardless of whether you're extensive medium or not, and we all can feel the presence of the spiritual world, there's another individual aspect of mediumship that is decentralized or disconnected from the practice at Spiritist groups or Spiritism in general, which is your own professional development, your own personal development, I should say. Sorry, I was just in a call for work right now talking about professional development, and I immediately went there. But so everybody can benefit from the awareness of mediumship, because it really leads us to question, what is it that I am acting on? What kind of thoughts I am having? Are they my own? Are they coming from the outside world? Am I being influenced by other people, whether they're incarnate or discarnate? And what am I doing with those thoughts and ideas? So I think that mediumship as a whole, within the Spiritism paradigm and the Spiritist perspective, really helps us to dive a little bit deeper, or at least it should, into ourselves and find out what is it that we are about, and what is it that we really want to be about, so that we can understand how to take better actions today in this life. So distinguishing and developing this credibility, this sense of critical thinking about who we are and what is it that we're doing, is a key factor, I think, and one of the key benefits to holding some sort of Spiritist practice, whether it be at Spiritist group or just a reading and reflection at home. It's really about getting to know us and knowing what is it that makes us tick, in terms of like, what is it that we are about and what is it that we should be doing in our lives. That would be my take on it. So there's a Spiritist piece and there's an individual piece to it as well.
Wonderful, Dan. Thank you. Yeah, Elsa, since you just joined us, do you do you want to compliment something? Do you want to say something?
I was trying to fix my microphone, my computer, my table here. Sorry that I run too late, my dear ones. Nice to see Dana Sisi here again, Charles, Sylvia, and you, Stephen. And it's so nice to hear Dan talking about this kind of mediumship in the way. And I saw that Lawrence Saville wrote something regarding mediumship, twice, these messages. That is nice. The one that he wrote here, mediumship is a generic term. Yes, it's a generic term because all of us, at least, we are
Mhm.
mediums. And we have mediumship phenomena. At least we can perhaps do not recognize that we have this power because it's
It's
natural.
happening.
Natural, sometimes you see at a glance, oh my God, I perhaps I saw someone running in my room. Yeah, you could see really that was someone running in your room. That is a spirit. There were things that happen more commonly that we're thinking about. And the beauty of the mediumship in spiritism is that we know the importance how to be a good medium, how to study to prepare ourselves to really deliver a good message. At least less our own influence in the message that will come from the spiritual world or in our mediumship private meetings that we can help discarnate the ones that sometimes they don't know that they are discarnated. So because I came late, I don't know if you're already talking about the things that I'm saying. I don't want to repeat what you said before. It's okay?
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the importance to be a medium on spiritism because I am a spiritist. I am also a spiritualist. And there are in spiritism and spiritualism this wonderful job to be a medium, not a professional medium, because we don't charge in spiritism. We use our private meetings to rescue spirits wandering. They don't know what the way that they die. They
Mhm.
want to stay in their homes. They want to be helped. And sometimes the spirit, as a man, a male spirit, talk through the body of a lady, a medium lady. And when you say to this one that is not, I don't know, I'm here, I want to go to my home, I want to talk with my family, they don't listen me. Oh, you are a sir, a man, talking to a body of the lady. You already are in spiritual world. You have no your physical body anymore. So with kindness, with love, we are doing a really charitable work when we help this the other side. We can help this side as well when we have mediums that bring consoling letters that we see not in Brazil, but we see here as well, giving support, giving a message from beloved one that passed away, and consoling a daughter, consoling a wife, consoling a father through the small message, a short message, but the message has an impact to dry tears. That is the good way to be charitable, using the mediumship for the good. But there are people, of course, who use the mediumship for the other way, doesn't matter. Each one has their own free will to do things. But as we are talking about inside the spiritism, that is the way that me at least, and people around can work to rescue, to help others, to do a private meetings, not to banalize, not to vandalize spirituality with no serious mediums. And Kardec started doing this. Talk to them, ask them, frivolous, wandering,
Mhm.
goods, etc. Pass it to you now.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, my dear Elsa.
I'd like to make a point, if I may, in my understanding, going to what I think some of the I forgot his name here, here. And where he says, that it's a generic term. I think the way I understand it, you are everyone, according to the medium's book. We have some portion of mediumship, all of us. And he says is a faculty that is inherent in man. So all of us have mediumship. Because we are spiritual beings living here. But I think generic term, I don't quite understand that. I think within mediumship, there are many types, many different, some people have the ability to write, others hear, others listen. There are so many, we are to have soon Florencio Anton, he paints. Through the mediumship, he does painting. Others have music. So it's within this is the abilities that we have, each one of us, because mediumship is given to us as a source for us, our own. I think Don mentioned something about that, because we are given what we call mediums, those who have this more developed, and we have more phenomenon. Most of it is so we can work for our own spirit first and foremost. We are giving this as kind of in a way it's a gift, not the way people understand it's a gift, but it's a gift for us, so we can not only progress as morally and virtue. Actually, Emmanuel
I lost sound for Sylvia.
Me too. I think as well we lost sound.
Guide of Shiksha. Sorry, everybody disappeared. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, but
Can you hear me?
You disappeared for a moment.
Yes, everybody, you all disappeared. No, it's just something that I was reading from a quote from Emmanuel, the spiritual guide of Chico Xavier, the medium Chico Xavier in Brazil. He says the mediumship, reminding us actually of the gospel. He said mediumship is the light that would flow over all flesh, as promised by the divine master at the time of the consoler, which is the moment that we are living now, since spiritism came, and spiritism is the consoler that was promised by Christ. And said though it's a difficult and painful struggle that you have to go through, but it's one of the best opportunities for us to progress, and the redemption that God gives us for us as a spirit, so we can grow. Mediumship is attribute of the spirit, is the heritage of the immortal soul, and is enriching all its values and virtues and intelligence, provided it's connected with the principles of the gospel, I think, which Elsa mentioned, because I think one of the important things that we need to emphasize that in Spiritism, we follow the teachings of Christ, Jesus, who says, we give for free what we receive for free. And also, as Emmanuel puts, it is a source for our own spirit, so we can grow morally, we can grow our virtues, we can grow our intelligence. So it's a very important source for us, for our spirit to progress and really be who we are, which are spirits of light. I think, we have different abilities. Some, usually we have 2 or maybe 3 types of mediumship, and as we work more and more, we maybe acquire some others. It's very rare that people have many more. I think, a very great exception was Chico Xavier, who had all types of mediumship, absolutely all types of mediumship, which, you know, I think he was the only one ever. Maybe Divaldo has quite a few as well. But I think this is very important for us to understand that that's the abilities with the mediumship, rather than being a medium and then you are this medium and that medium. No, you are a medium, but you can talk, you can hear, and, you know, we develop, and as the more and more, you know, we work, the better it is. We develop more. We become not develop, we become more sensitive to the work, I think. And one, I think you know, Elsa and Dan and said as well, the main reason in spiritism that we do mediumship is for rescue work, is for helping people who are discarnated, in need of help and guidance. Some of them have not realized that they already gone into the spiritual world. So that's how we use, in spiritism, how we use mediumship. You know, not to bring messages or communicate. Mostly is the work that for rescue and helping. And of course, when you help others, we help ourselves. And it's difficult sometimes, but it's wonderful. It really is one of the most wonderful things to be able to do. And I'm so blessed. So sorry I disappeared.
Yeah.
I
And
had myself.
if I can jump in here really quick, and then I also want to ask Charles to join me in a little bit too, if I may, is, you know, when I heard that term from Lawrence, I think he brought a really great point, and I think Sylvia went to great lengths to share that with us, which is there are many different types of mediumship. It doesn't manifest just in one specific way. You know, and I think that Kardec would agree with us, because when I go back to the mediums book, for instance, one, you know, Kardec being a great educator and a great rational person, he starts to tell us about different kinds of mediumship. And one of the wonderful distinctions that he makes right off the bat, he says, you know, we could qualify mediumship in two different branches. One of them is of physical effects, and the other one is of intellective or intellectual effects. Right? And so in the beginning of our exploration of mediumship as spiritists, we saw that, you know, there was a lot of physical effects mediumship, where things were moving around, the tipping tables, right, and rocking and so forth. But with time, we really wanted to focus more on the intellectual effects of mediumship, which is the writing, the speaking, the sensing, the healing. There's so many different variations of mediumship in there, and nobody ever has exactly the same mediumship. It's sort of like a fingerprint. And I love that, because I think it invites us to really go deeper into ourselves too, and say, how do I register the influence of the spiritual realm, and how do I act on it, right? And we have wonderful examples of great mediums, as Sylvia shared with us. You know, in Brazil, we have Divaldo Franco, we have Francis Xavier. In Britain, we have so many as well, with so many different people in the US as well. And so I really like that perspective. But I want to toss that back to Charles, because I know that Charles has studied quite a bit of the Kardecian way of thinking. And so I wanted to ask you, Charles, if that's okay. And I'm gonna hijack this for a little bit, Stephen, if that's okay. I'm just gonna ask Charles, what do you make of the way Kardec has talked to us about how mediumship can be expressed? And you're on mute, sir.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry for that. Yes, indeed. I mean, he started, of course, like a lot of people, observing exactly what you mentioned, the first class. Physical effect mediums, moving tables and so on. So he observed it in a way that he had no doubt. He saw it immediately, that there was no trick, no rope, no lever, no nothing who could explain the movement of this table physically. And then when he saw also that by questioning the table, giving answers, intelligent answers. So he made also the jump, saying, hey, if there is an intelligent effect, there must be an intelligent cause somewhere. Only things very simple of common sense, you know. And little by little, he was developing his observation and studies until compiling first the Spirits book, then second book was the Mediums book, which it has been quoted here already several times by several of the people around the screen here. It's so far, I don't know a better, most complete, most self-supporting treaty about mediumship. And he really classifies the mediumship. I see Thais and also Lawrence saying there are a lot of different types of mediumship. Indeed. And Kardec really observed a lot of them. Maybe not all. Maybe he observed what he could observe during his life. But out of his life and also out of the facts which have been observed along the history, there has been new facts appearing and new facts, new type of mediumship. For instance, Kardec did not see the mediums which are suitable for instrumental transcommunication because simply there wasn't instrumental transcommunication at that time. There was no computer, there was no fax, there was no recorder, nothing. So,
but Charles, we can say that the little baskets were transcommunication at that point in time. If in a way, it was at least a predecessor of computers.
Exactly. Yes. And the thing is, it's simply part of nature. It's simply part of human nature. So why to mystify it? Why to ignore it by science? The correct scientific approach is the one Kardec followed. If a scientist has preconceived ideas, no, nothing exists out of matter. It cannot be spirits because spirits are not existing. He's not a good scientist, because a good scientist must observe the facts of the nature as they are, as they come, without preconceived ideas. And that's the big challenge today, the big call which is done by a lot of people in the Manifesto for a Post-Materialist Science, which are exactly inducing, please observe several phenomena which are becoming stronger and stronger evidences that there is something else in the universe than just the physical matter. And amongst these phenomena, there is mediumship, there is near-death experience. So these phenomena they are existing. They cannot be denied anymore. So science shall go investigate and seek for an explanation. So it's, as you told, already 160 years that Kardec started this new approach of the mediumship. He, of course, was not the only one. There were some front runner before him, like Swedenborg or some others, or Andrew Jackson Davis in the US or whoever. Nevertheless, he really was the one who made it, didactically as a self-supported treaty, which is the Mediums book. And it's really a pity to see that this resistance, anti-scientific resistance, is still in force today, in particular in the academies for the people who should follow the correct scientific methodology. So means to be open-minded. Of course, not to accept anything blindly. That's also not what they're calling. But please observe the phenomena as they are, as they appear, as they are getting more and more frequent. At least that was what Kardec did. Of course, it was 160 years ago. The world has changed a lot in the meantime. We have some more, and we need also some more sophisticated protocols nowadays, like double-blind, triple-blind. Do whatever is necessary, but please observe it. It's really an anti-scientific attitude just to put it aside because it's not what I'm thinking. This is not science.
Isn't it interesting, Charles, that we have dogmatic approaches even within academy?
Exactly. The science is, finger-pointing the dogmas of the churches, but the science has its own dogma, like the materialistic dogma. never ever anyone demonstrated that the spirit is not existing. That, or the only thing which exists in the universe is what we can observe, is the matter. Nobody has never demonstrated this. And as soon as someone investigates removing this dogma, immediately there is a lot of progress.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a question now of a couple of years, or maybe some decades, but it will definitively change. This materialistic paradigm will fall down and be replaced by a wider paradigm, by a wider vision, a more integral, holistic vision of the human being.
Yeah, great. And just came here one sentence, one affirmation here from Lucas, and I want to bring this to topic because let's put it this. He says here the mediums were very bad in the past, and they need to be they need in previous lives, and they need to be humble and pay for their past problem. uh, Lucas, allow me to disagree with you. That's perhaps not the case. I'm not saying this is 100% true. We may have some mediums with this mission, but I don't believe Chico Xavier or Divaldo were bad guys in the past lives, and they are paying this life for what they did. I'm so sorry. I need to be convinced by this, or let's use the reasonable faith. This doesn't comes with my reasonable faith. Doesn't make sense for me, but I can be wrong. I would like to hear my friends here to what they think about what Lucas wrote for us.
Stephen, very quickly, we have all been very bad in the past. Depends when in the past. The more you go in the past, the worse we were. So, of course, we all made a bad thing in the past, even Chico or Divaldo or whoever. Nevertheless, I think it goes too far to say that if someone is medium, it is because absolutely he was very bad in the past. He can have asked the mediumship as a mission. I will give you an example. Jesus was a medium. But of course, he also was wrong in the past. But then we have to go very, very, very far away, So he was not paying any debt. He was just here to teach us, to show by example.
But Jesus was the medium of God. He was not in the same level of all of us, I think. Just another point as well that Lucas made, that mediums seek and cause a lot of problems, and it's better not to be a medium. Well, you cannot have a choice because you have a mediumship is inherent. Everyone has. And sometimes a lot of people, and someone made the point, I think Thais made the point, that, sometimes we don't even know we are mediums, and, you have all sorts of things. And I think one point as well that's very important that we're learning in Spiritism, there is no such a thing as paying back. What we do, what we have is the opportunity of reincarnation or having a new life to readdress wrongs that we made in the past. God does not punish anyone. God is merciful. He's a merciful Father. And we are not punished. It's our own conscience who, when we understand that we made mistakes, we wanted to readdress the wrongs we did. There is no such a thing that you are born to be punished. I think one of the most important things that we learn in Spiritism is that absolutely nothing is written in stone. And because you were bad, sometimes most people who have a very bad life, so problems, physical problems, mental problems, sometimes it is a consequence of the past, but it doesn't mean that necessarily so for everyone. Sometimes the spirits of light decide to be born in a family with a lot of difficulties to unite the family, to help their people. So you can never, ever absolutely judge that someone is going through a difficult time because they did something terribly bad in the past. We all have done things and we learn and we do better and we want to readdress the wrongs we made. So I think it's very important for us to understand that mediumship, whereas, we do have difficulties. Yes, there is a lot of difficulties, but what you get out of doing it, of helping others, is so wonderful. And you ask, you were mediums. I can talk for me. I am, and I work very little, but I think everybody agree, Elsa and Charles, Dan, you, Stephen, when we do this mediumship work, it's difficult. Sometimes it's dark. We have to go out in the cold, but it's wonderful. What we get back does not pay any sacrifice that we made for mediumship. I think it's very important for us to learn that this is a blessing that we have. And it's like Charles said, we're not all bad. We've done bad things, and we are better than we were before, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love the interaction from our friends in the chat too. Thank you very much. Do please put your comments and your questions there. Thank you, Lucas, for your great contribution there. I would also take a very simple approach and say the mediumship is just a quality. It's an ability, so to speak, right? And by default, then it's neutral. It is what we make of it. And so it's understandable that when we see people struggling with mediumship, they might think it's not necessarily a great thing. But it's not different than our character or our intelligence or other abilities. It really depends on how we use it. I think that a lot of it has to do with our misunderstanding about mediumship and us just seeing mediumship sometimes in ways that are not unbalanced. They're not balanced. They are unbalanced. But I also want to point out what our friends are saying here, that there's great benefit to mediumship. First of all, I think that the greatest gift of mediumship is that of empathy. It allows us to feel more clearly what other people are feeling and leads it outside of ourselves. And how wonderful is it for us to be able to consider the neighbor, the people who are next to us, in ways that are moving us away from our self-centeredness. I think that the world, everybody can agree, could use more empathetic people. So I think that people that have mediumship are forced to tackle this important path in evolution, which is, how do I feel and consider the other? When you are medium and you feel those feelings, it's hard for you to not develop a sense of empathy, right? And I think another wonderful benefit of mediumship too is our ability to develop our critical thinking. When we begin to think about what is it that is ours, what is it that somebody else's, and how to behave well in the world, what a great benefit. As a matter of fact, I wish we all had developed a sense of critical thinking, because I think that the lessons that Kardec teaches in the Medium's book in chapter 14, for instance, on how to deal with, I think it's 24 actually, how to deal with the messages and how to find out who's communicating and who's not, are great exercises in developing our critical sense so that we can battle spiritual fake news or real fake news in the world, right? How do we make sure that the knowledge that we are acquiring, whether it comes from the spiritual world or from the physical world, is good and worthwhile, right? We have to reflect on what we're feeling, where we're getting it from, the content, who is signing the message, who is the deliverer of the message. So I think that it's very understandable that we still misunderstand mediumship. But I think that the more we see that as a neutral ability that all of us have, we know that it really depends on how we drive it. So we can all have cars, but the cars will only drive as well as the drivers inside the car. And so, how can we prepare ourselves to make better choices in our lives with our actions, with our reflections, with our choices, to develop our character, to make choices that are going to be based on the immortal soul that we are and not the physical body that we have? How can we think about long term? How can we use these abilities to help ourselves become more empathetic, and in so doing, help others? Because when we help others, we help ourselves, because we're going to be in a better world. And I think that it will be a lot harder to do that without mediumship. It would take a lot longer. So I love that we have mediumship, and I understand that we may be struggling in understanding how it works. But I'm going to say that I'm very glad that we have that tool that allows us to develop ourselves morally and intellectually in ways that are going to be faster and more helpful to us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Elsa would like to compliment something?
Yeah, I was thinking about the mediums from the past. For example, Jeanne d'Arc, Joanna d'Arc. That was a young girl. She was calling through this phenomena, mediumship, and she did a great job at that time and saved the France. And at the end, of course, she was murdered, to the, in a big fire. But Leon Denis was so impressed and wrote about Jeanne d'Arc, the mediumship of Jeanne d'Arc, as a biography. And also, our dear Arthur Conan Doyle, he was so impressed with the book that he decided, he talked with Leon Denis, decided to translate into English. Charles, it's okay what I'm saying, no? And in 1925, they were walking together in a congress in Paris and chatting in the corridor. Leon Denis holding arms with Arthur Conan Doyle. And I was thinking, oh my God, these two powerful men together talk in the corridor. What they are talking about after that, good things happen in spiritualism and in spiritism, and regarding mediumship. And we are here talking about these types of mediumship, the beautiful that Dana Assis just pointed, the importance of the mediumship. But the mediumship, since mankind is mankind, we have a mediumship because, first of all, we are spirits. We don't need our body to communicate. We can do things beautifully with phenomena that was done before, talking, I think, the first moment about the turning tables, where everything started. I will have spiritism because a curiosity of Allan Kardec was in this session and saw that the table has no brain, no way to answer questions. So everything that there is on. That time was turning tables. And nowadays there are people using machines, TV or radio or different way to talk to the dead. But in every way, there is a medium, a physical medium, a person, a flesh, to be there to intermediate this kind of phenomena that happens sometimes through machines. But it is something that we can talk in another week. No, Esteban, because we can anticipate things from this month. And for my part, I'm very happy to be here in talking about the mediumship. And I like so much this kind of work, really. A humble work with the love and care is a charity that we can give to others as we are receiving from heavens, a gift.
Yeah, and I love that, and I understand that we may have a lot of misgivings about mediumship, and I see many different comments happening there too. Lucas, thank you again for chiming in. And I think that in many different ways we have an understanding that's incomplete about mediumship, because mediums are in control of the communication. always in control of the communication. And so I'm going to, if I could, I would join the chat there to comment. But I think that there is a lot of misunderstandings about how the mediumistic communication takes place. And I think through our studies and research over 160 years with many different ways, and sometimes in double-blind experiments, like Charles suggested with Kardec and different messages, we have learned that because the medium is always in control of the communication, we are not subject to the will of the spirits, right? A spirit cannot just communicate anytime they want and do with us whatever they want to. We're not horses. They cannot mount a medium and just do whatever it is. That can only take place if the medium allows it. So if the medium believes that is the case, then this is what will happen. That is why it's so great for us to have the opportunity to study mediumship better yet, if we can do this in a group, to understand that the medium is always in control of the spirit communication to a certain degree. And that's why I love Spiritism in so many ways, because it allows us to dive deeper and break preconceived notions about how does mediumship work, right? Because we know there's a spectrum of different ideas and influences from different ways. So Lucas, I totally agree that mediumship is important, but I would suggest, a deeper dive into some of those books that we're talking about, mainly the Medium's book, for you to see whether that brings some light into a different perspective, because the spirits cannot command people to communicate that easily.
Actually, sorry to interrupt you. I think, yes, it's a very good point, Dan, that maybe you take some time. There is in Spanish, the Medium's book, and you really should read it. You understand better. Another thing is spirits don't climb, they don't jump in your body. The connection is through the spiritual body of the medium, who connects to the spiritual body of the spirit. It's a very sophisticated, extremely scientific, actually, the way of dealing with it. It's nothing to do that the spirit jumps on your back and you're going to talk. It's a very sophisticated, and it's a very deep and extremely subtle way in which the spirits, and these things that doesn't happen. It does in certain circumstances, but it's a completely different subject. So it's very subtle, and it's through the spiritual body of the medium and the spiritual body of the spirit. It's not, nobody is jumping on your back. So there is nothing to do with horses, although they are beautiful creatures, and I wouldn't mind being one for the spirit, actually, but it's not like you express. And maybe if you take some time to read a little bit, you would really understand, maybe have a different idea. Because it's a fascinating subject, isn't it?
One point which is true is being medium and not making use of the mediumship is also not good. I think that's what also a little bit what Lucas mentioned, because of course we always have your free will. So even with the mediumship faculty, if we decide not to make use of it, it's our choice. Nevertheless, this brings us a lot of difficulties and problems. And so as we have mediumship, the best thing to do is to study about it, learn about it, and then use it for doing good. Otherwise, we will regret it sooner or later.
And that's a great point, Charles.
We ask for it, don't we?
Point, Charles.
We actually ask to have the possibility of mediumship. It's not forced on us. It's something that we ask for as a medium. We ask for it before we are incarnated. Sorry, Dan.
No worries. I would just say, as a matter of fact, Charles, I think your point you bring is great, because many mental health issues or illnesses could be dealt with were we aware of mediumship. Sometimes mediumship manifests in a way that we're not aware, and they're confused with other mental health illnesses. And so if we were to study mediumship more deeply and more devotedly, I think that we would be able to handle lots of cases that otherwise are considered to be psychiatric in nature, and they are
Exactly.
necessarily not.
Exactly.
Okay, my friends, our time is up. I want to say thank you, especially to Dan for being here today with us, giving part of his time. It's good to see the full team here on board. Um, I will share my screen. I only show here our topic for next week. I don't have the remaining announcements because I changed my laptop and I didn't fully update it, so I needed to beg your pardon because I didn't. But I promise for next week we will have the full announcements here. So next week we will talk about types of mediumship and spiritism. Okay, so we will deep dive in types of mediumship according to spiritism. Okay,
What a
so
wonderful segue, a perfect next step.
yes, yes.
Hi,
Yeah.
Thais. Nice to see you here with us.
Yeah, and I want to say
Everyone.
thank you to Lawrence for being here with us, Thais Ferrari, Hipólito, Lucas, Samantha Smith, Lee Andrews. Let me see, Severina. Long time don't see you, Severina. Hope you're okay. Lou VM, thank you, Lou. Realia, thank you for being here, Realia. And that's it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your patience. And I'll see you all next Wednesday, 9 p.m. London time. Thank you.
Good
Thank
night,
you
Good evening, my
all.
friends.
friends.
And good
Perhaps we
evening,
can
my
have
friends.
Dana Sisi again. Who knows? God knows.
You need
What?
to ask. You don't need to ask him. You need to ask his agenda. His agenda
Always
has
well.
the answer.
You guys are gluttons for punishment. I don't know why you would want to have me twice in a row.
Yeah.
You are.
Always great to be with you guys.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye, good night. God bless you all. Bye.